Hello, and welcome back to Bnei Noach Academy, Thoughts on the Torah. Please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe, and most importantly, to share this insight and inspiration with friends and family. When you look at the book of Genesis, chapter 13, verses 10 and on, it describes how the nephew of Avrohom, that's Abraham, the father of the Jewish people, how he's separated from Abraham and where he headed to and why he chose this location. It says to us in verse 10, it says, he looked up, he looked about, and he saw how well watered was the whole plain. And that is where Sedom was. And that's because Kikula Mashke, it was all watered. It was all a beautiful oasis. It was blessed with the greatest of materialism. And that is why he chose it. If you look in verse 11, he says, Lot chose the plain of the Jordan, and Lot journeyed eastward. What does that tell you if he journeyed eastward? That tells us that he's separated from Abraham, right? But then the verse makes a point to tell us, and they parted from each other. I want you to think about it. We know that the Torah doesn't say any extra words, not even any extra innuendo. Something that's implied, at least in such a case, and so obviously the Torah would not make a point to state it. It's obvious. If he traveled, if he went from the east, he traveled away from the east, then he traveled away from Abraham. Obviously, he's separated from him. Well, what the Torah is pointing out is that by him choosing the materialism, he totally separated himself from Abraham. He ripped himself away from the source of godliness. To him, unfortunately, even though he had such a great inspiration as Abraham, his uncle, yet, unfortunately, it wasn't enough for him, and he himself cared only about one thing, and that is the matter, and that is the materialism. Now, if you fast forward to chapter 14, verse 12, after it describes to us the war of the kings, and it tells us how they were all taken captive. And then it says, they also took Lot, that is, who is the son of Abraham's brother, his nephew, and all of his possession, and they departed. For he had settled in Sedom, and he is living in Sedom. Well, we know he was living in Sedom. We haven't been told of another location that he had moved to. So why would the Torah again make it a point to point this out? Well, the answer is because the Torah is telling us he associated himself with these wicked people. He had aligned himself with these terrible, terrible people for one reason, and one reason only, because all he was interested in the materialism. And he totally forsake his spiritual integrity. He had a great life for a while, but now look, even this he lost, all his possessions, everything, and who knows, he could have lost his life. This is a lesson for us. Sometimes it looks like that those who align themselves, those who associate themselves with the good, the so-called good that's there in the matter, in the material world, they seem to have a very good life. But here we see clearly that it's not so. It could be something that seems good in the moment, but at the end of the day, associating yourself with the wicked does not bring any good.